Hey, what's up, guys? So as you already know, the Philippines, it's always been known as a place for older foreigners to come to and spend long periods of time or to live full time. That is starting to change though. I am meeting more and more guys in their 40s, 30s, and sometimes even in their 20s who are coming to the Philippines for the same reasons as these older foreigners. And not just for a week or 2-week vacation, but they're coming here as a place to live, or they're trying to find a way to live here in the Philippines because of unaffordability back home, crappy dating and relationship opportunities, loneliness. And for younger guys who are still working, a lot of them feel like they're just caught up in that rat race, finding themselves really unhappy with the life that they are creating for themselves back in the West. And they're looking to a place like the Philippines to find more fulfillment in life, to find more life balance. I recently met a guy named Alex who's 31 years old, and he came over to Southeast Asia 6 years ago to get some dental work done because it was cheaper. And that trip changed the course of his life forever. And after spending some time here, he knew without a doubt that he wanted to find a way to live in the Philippines full time. He's got an awesome story, and he shares a lot of good insight on the importance of finding financial freedom to be able to make it happen, because that's the hardest thing for younger guys that still have to work. He touches on dating. He talks a lot about deferred gratification, which is very common in the West. In other words, I will push all of the rewards for my life down the road. I'll wait until retirement even. And I can't even tell you how many guys that I've met here that are retired in the Philippines, and they all say they wish they did it sooner. And that's sort of Alex's mindset. He brings so many good thoughts to this interview. It's a good one, guys. Let's get to it. There's a lot of guys still working and are tired of living in the rat race in the West. And you were able to break away at what age? What was the first time that you broke away and came over to Southeast Asia?
Yeah, so my first time was 6 years ago. I was 25. I needed to get a wisdom tooth out. I don't know if I have the budget. He's like, just come over here and do it. And I thought, well, what do you mean come over here and do it? Why would I go over there? He said, you realize you could get dental work for a fraction of the price that you could get it back home, and so reach out to some clinics and see what they say. I got quoted to get one tooth out for $280 equivalent. I'm thinking, well, with the other $1,700 I'd be spending getting it done here, I can rent a nice condo, I can have whatever food I can want to have, I can recover in comfort. And so a month later, I'm parking my car and I'm taking a ride to the airport, and I'm feeling nervous, and I end up in Thailand, and I spent a month there and fell in love with it. So I did another trip to Southeast Asia a couple years later, visited the Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, Cambodia, Thailand again, also did Japan on that trip. And it was at that point it really solidified for me, I want to live over here. I just like the vibe, I like the culture, I like the people. But the financial question was top of mind for me. I made a 5-year plan. I'm thinking 5 years from now, I want to go try living there for a year. So I'm not here full time, but I thought if I spend a year over there, I'm going to know a lot more and have a lot more experience than what I have now. So my goal shouldn't necessarily be to go for having enough income in perpetuity. I think it's going to take longer for most people than 5 years to build up the investment portfolio, to build up rental income in terms of real estate. What I thought was, let me just save every penny. Let me figure out a job where I can earn more than what I need to live on and then live far below my means. Not taking the vacations anymore, not eating out at the fancy restaurants anymore, not buying the status symbols, not necessarily having the latest iPhone or the latest video game system, the fanciest laptop, being very, very, very conscious about my spending, knowing none of this stuff makes me happy. But you know what did make me happy? Living in Southeast Asia made me happy. It made me happy to interact with smiling and happy faces and having that warm tropical weather, interesting food, and just the dynamism, going out in the street and having this feeling of spontaneity. So yeah, to get back to your original question, I thought save enough money for a year over there, get that year down, and you'll have a better sense, because a lot of us, we're coming here on vacation, we've got our vacation fund, we blow it, now we got to go back. We didn't really know what it was like to live there. We knew what it was like to vacation there, but I thought this is the next step for me, is get that money together. So I got into sales work. As you make a really big sale, you sell something really, really expensive, you're going to get a big commission check. Now, for a lot of salespeople, their first reaction when they get that first big commission check is, now I'm going to go get a BMW. Now I'm going to go get a luxury item. Now I'm going to go spend a week in Miami, staying in a penthouse, and going to the beach every day. That wasn't my reaction. I already knew that from my previous life, I had a lot of those things. I had a lot of those experiences. They didn't make me happy. These things didn't make me happy. And so I knew, okay, you get that big check, you sock it away. You get another big check, you sock it away. Eventually this job will come to an end like most jobs do nowadays in America. We all know as young guys, there ain't no job security for a lot of guys. So when that day comes, you book your flight and you go stay over there for a year, and the rest is history.
That was my next question. I think a lot of guys are afraid to leave the setup that they have. The fear of, well, I worked hard to get this job. I'm gonna go leave for a year. Well, there goes my job. What am I gonna do when I get back? Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Frame it like a sabbatical. Think about framing. I've had some subscribers that would say, how could you do that? What's gonna happen? If you have enough experience and you have industry connections, you should be able to sell it, right? If you should be able to sell people on this idea that, hey, I need a break. I've been in grind mode for 10, 15 years, which was the case for me. I'd worked nonstop. As soon as I got out of high school, I went to college and started my own business. I needed a break. Mentally, I was just not in the best place when I decided to do that. And I thought, you only live once. I'm never gonna be 31 again. I'm never gonna be 32 again. This idea of delayed gratification is very important, and I would never discount the guys who do that. But you've got to think, am I guaranteed forever? I don't think so. I don't think we're guaranteed forever. If something happened to you next week, your employer would put out a job listing the following Monday. They got to do it. There's business continuity. They have a responsibility to keep the business going regardless of what happens. So I think you need to be careful about getting too much wrapped up into your identity if you're financially there, if you can afford to take a year off. For me, I would say having 20 to 30K is probably good enough for most bachelors, most single guys to afford a comfortable year in Southeast Asia. If you can afford to swing it, try it. Reach out to your boss, reach out to your coworkers. Maybe you've got some former coworkers, right? Maybe you job hop and tell them, hey, I need to take a year off. I've got some things I need to do. Do you think that we could chat in a year from now about me potentially coming on board and have some leftover, have some extra that you can have a soft landing? You're not running around trying to find a place to live. Reach out to your family members. Hey, I want to go do this. Be honest. You don't have forever. Our lives are finite. Life is short. Hey, if I go off for a year, can I come back and crash on your couch for a month? And line a few of those up. If they really care about you, they'll want to see you if you've been gone for a year. They'll miss you. That's been my experience, that I have people reaching out, Alex, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? Come stay with us for a month. We want to hear about the Philippines. We want to hear about Thailand. Now we want to go visit. Really be honest with yourself about pursuing your happiness, because I think so many of us in the West, we're trained to defer gratification, and we think, someday, and we never get to enjoy it. And for some of us, getting it out of your system is super valuable. For some of us, maybe you come for a year and you say, you know what, like my buddy who originally talked me into coming to Thailand, he's done traveling. He's been to New Zealand, he's been to Australia, he's been to Europe, he's been all over Southeast Asia. He's like, yeah, that part of my life's done. I enjoyed it. Now I'm fully focused on my career. So for some of you, it's going to be getting it out of your system and realizing, hey, you know what, very, very cool. Not the life I want to live full time. X, Y, and Z reason I want to be back here. But know that you're not throwing away your old life to come over here for a year. Also, I would say too, think about starting your own business. I mean, for a number of guys who I've known, they have never had a year to focus on a business. Some people might tell them, hey, why don't you go start a business? Well, I work full time, and after work, I'm exhausted. I am tired. I have given it my all. I have emptied the gas tank at work. I don't have the energy to go start a new business. And so you might think, oh man, now that I have this year off, I've never had this kind of time. I'm still trained to be productive Monday through Friday. What do I have to offer? For some guys, it's going to be getting into YouTube. For other guys, they may get into consulting. For some other guys, they may be at a position where they could get some rental properties. Maybe they've already got a rental property, and they're thinking, oh, well, my rental income, $1,000 a month, that's not going to pay for my life in America, but maybe I could live on that plus some savings. Maybe I've got 10 or 20K of spare cash, and I could go live on that for a year and really just decompress. I think that's what's been helpful for me. And I've talked to another friend of mine, a guy named Chi. and he worked in IT in the UK for 20 years. And he said, I've talked to a lot of young people that have used that year off to think about their life. We're in such a rush back home that I've made mistakes back home thinking I was doing the right thing because we're trained to rush, and I'm rushing, okay, I've got to work. A year goes by, 2 years goes by, 3 years goes by, and I'm not making good decisions. I think I'm making good decisions. Oh man, I made all this money. Now I've got this car. What a good decision it was to have this status symbol. Well, now the car is no longer exciting to me. Now the high-end apartment is no longer exciting to me. Now living in the hustle and bustle of the city, at first, wow, I've never had this. A few months later, man, I feel lonely here. Man, I work so many hours, I don't have a social life. So having that time to assess the direction of your life, think about where you're going, think about where you want to go. We're just not afforded that time when we're working full-time in the West. And there's a lot of guys, I'm sure, that are watching your channel that they were in such a hurry. They made some big missteps assuming they were doing the right thing because they were following the crowd. They were doing what they thought they needed to do. They thought, oh man, I'm following the rules. And they realized some rules are flexible. Some rules are meant to be broken. And sometimes it doesn't look like what you've been taught or what you think is going to work, but it ends up being the best thing that's happened to you. I'm super grateful for the time I've spent over here. Maybe I go back to get back to the grind, but it's showed me, prior to coming here, I didn't know exactly what I wanted my life to look like. Now I do. Now I see a step-by-step process to get to where I want to be, because once I get my finances exactly where they need to be, totally dialed in, I'm gonna move over to the Philippines. And I know what that life looks like now. All of these experiences that you can't have back home, period, point blank, or just not possible for you, are going to appear. That spontaneity of like, I walk down the street here in Dumaguete and I see a guy pulls up with a truck full of grapes. That's wild. Maybe I'll get some grapes from that guy. That ain't gonna happen back home. That guy's gonna get run off by the cops. That guy's gonna get told, hey sir, you don't have a permit, you need to get out of here. All these spontaneous experiences that you never thought were possible will arise here.
You spent some time in Thailand, and let's just use that as a comparison. But in the end, you have chosen the Philippines. If you were to come to Southeast Asia to live, why do you choose the Philippines? Because it's usually older guys, and you're 31, and you've spent time in both of these countries. Let me hear your story with that.
The biggest reason, and this is something I did not appreciate before, for a very long time I thought, oh, you're an introvert, dude. You're an introvert. I just didn't have anybody to talk to. In Thailand, the Thai people are wonderful. People treated me with kindness, respect, consideration, super friendly. But there's that language barrier. The majority of Thai people, they speak Thai. They don't speak English. Here in the Philippines, I can go up and talk to just about anybody. It's so easy for me to just meet random people on the street and talk to them. I know your mileage may vary. Some places that are more populated with foreigners are going to have a higher amount of English speakers, but it's very easy for me to make friends here. If I'm being transparent, I have more friends here than I've ever had before in my life. I've met more people here. I meet people every single day. That vibrancy, I struggled with loneliness back home. I struggled somewhat with loneliness in Thailand. Wasn't the fault of the Thai people, but just not being able to talk to people. I remember the first time I had that encounter with the language barrier in Thailand, where I would go to a coffee shop and I'm thinking, okay, if I just say it really nice, and then she'll understand. And so I start speaking English. I'm like, okay, if I smile and I'm polite and nice, then she'll get it. And then she stops me about halfway through. I'm sorry, I just can't understand English. And I'm like, oh gosh, I should have known better. I should have known. I'm in Thailand, I'm not in the US. I can't expect that people have a high level of English. So top of mind for me is just the social life. This is the most vibrant social life I've ever had in my life. I never feel lonely. I'm more often turning down opportunities to socialize here, where back home I was so desperate. I hope somebody starts a conversation with me. I'm afraid of rejection. I know people are busy. I know people have a lot going on. Here I have none of that. People will take time out of their day to sit with me and talk with me, chat with me on the street. I've never had that experience before. I've experienced more validation here than I've ever experienced in my life, and it's allowed me to heal in a lot of ways that I just didn't ever expect.
So for the guys that are back home that are really wanting to find a girlfriend, and they heard about the Philippines, a lot of hype about meeting partners here, what is your experience dating in the Philippines, and how do you compare it to opportunities back home? So you're speaking to guys that are struggling to find a good partner back home.
Yeah, so I had great experiences dating back home as a young man. I would say from 15 to 25, no issues at all. I could date many different women, had many great experiences. From 25 on, I got into grind mode. I was in grind mode before that, but that's when it really hit me. I need to be focused on career, top of mind. I find that the pace of life in the West is so fast that people become what I call androgynous worker-consumer bots. This goes for men and women. It's not just a woman thing, it's not just a man thing. People have to lose what makes them unique to feed the corporate machine, to feed the needs of the business, to feed the requirements of living life in the West. And so I found that top of priority for all the women I dated, 25 and up, was their job. They were not oriented toward the relationship. They're worried, how am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to get more education so I can command a higher income to get the house I want, to get the car I want? And when your relationship is not one of your top priorities, you're just not going to take it as seriously. When it got to the point in the West where I was dating women, and I'd see them maybe once a week for a couple hours. Maybe we get together Saturday night for date night, but they had their house, I had my house. They had their life, I had my life. And there was so much separation there where you drift apart. You hear about this a lot in the West of guys who they got married and 10 years later they're roommates. They don't have the intimacy. Not just talking about in the bedroom, but even just the connection of like, we trust each other, we know each other. It's the West these days is just not oriented toward relationships. People are afraid of commitment. We talked a bit about that. Chad and I have talked a bit about that, where people are afraid, men and women. What if I get burned like last time? What if he finds somebody else? What if she finds somebody else? What if she meets somebody who's got way more to offer than I do? Maybe I'm just a normal Joe. Maybe I'm blue collar. Maybe I'm white collar, but I never built up any assets. Maybe I managed to get an education, but I don't come from a good family. All of these things are a concern when you're dating in the West. The difference being here, relationships are top of mind for a lot of people. I get asked if I'm single every single day, usually multiple times a day. Just last night on the trike ride home, the trike driver's asking me, are you single? Where's your wife? Oh man, I'm single. Oh, you know, these two women are married that are riding with us, but, you know, my cousin, my sister-in-law, the second they realize here that you're single, they're trying to set you up with somebody, or they make a phone call. I've literally had somebody talk to me, yeah, as soon as this conversation's over, I'm calling my niece because I think you would make a great couple with her. So people look at it like their relationships are their top priority. Yeah, they're working hard, they're hustling hard. You see people working hard here. I see people here every day busting their behind to try to get ahead, trying to support their family, trying to help out their cousin. You see this with the OFW community. So it's a place, it's a country, it's a culture that treats relationships, they put them on a pedestal. And so in America, you don't get the community support. I dated a woman and her friends would be in her ear, he's a bum, he's a loser, you need to find somebody different. You need to be a single woman, you need to play the field. You don't have that here. I've found that a lot of families are like, you need to stick by your man, you need to stick by your husband. Here, people are much more down to earth. They just want a good man. They want a guy that's going to be honest. They want a guy that's not going to run out on them. They want a guy who maybe he's not totally financially stable, but he's working. He's got a job. He's employed. He's trying to level up. He's trying to build up his business. They're not waiting for the guy that has it all figured out. They're willing to help the right guy figure it out. Now, are they, you know, if you're totally destitute here, I'm not going to say that's a good look. That's not a good look anywhere in the world. But they're willing to take a chance. They're much more willing to take a chance here. When I was younger, I was super confident. I mean, I had no problem just approaching women, and then I had some missteps. I made some bad relationship choices. I got beaten down by my difficult dating experiences, and I lost that confidence. I got to the point where I got so self-conscious about rejection. Oh, you're not that tall, or oh, you know, your nose is too, big, or what, whatever it may be. I had these self-conscious feelings about my inadequacies, and I thought I just don't need to even do it anymore, And then I came over here, and I had women looking me in the eye and telling me, "Wow, you're really handsome," and even if I didn't feel handsome, even if I didn't feel like I'm that great looking, even if I didn't approach them, they look at your potential. They look at what's on the inside more often. They know that there's handsome guys out there. They know that there's good-looking guys out there. They know that there's these, but they're not chasing perfection. They're not expecting a perfect man. Back home, it was very much, what have you done for me lately? You're feeling like, I've got to play the clown. I've got to entertain her. I've got to make her laugh. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. It's discouraging. You feel like nothing I ever do is good enough. And nothing I could do could please her in the long term. Even when I got the fancy apartment, but these apartments next door are fancier. They're newer. I come over here, and the balance shifts. Oh, where are you from? What's your family like? What do you like about my country? Where do you want to go here? Where have you been traveling here? It shifts from me to you. And you feel like, wow, she's giving me all this attention, and she's curious about me, and she wants to feed me, and it's, what have you done for me lately back home? For here, it's, what can I do for you? Complimentary too, like, oh, you're so handsome. You never hear that back home. They're comparing you to unrealistic expectations. Here, they're like, wow, you're a foot taller than me. Wow, you've got, what's the word? You just look so different from the guys that I dated locally or the guys I've met locally.
You're kind of exotic.
You're exotic. You've got different looks.
You feel appreciated. You feel the focus is on you, like to make you happy. Like, is that a big difference?
Absolutely. In many different ways, they're wanting to make you happy. They're wanting to enjoy. They're wanting to see the enjoyment on your face. I just want you to have a good time. I just want you to enjoy yourself. I just want you to enjoy this place, and they're shocked that you love it. Because it's day-to-day life for them. They're in the grind, they're working their job, they like their country, they enjoy their country, but they get a thrill out of seeing, can you imagine this beach? I've never seen a beach like this before. Oh, this seafood, the biggest prawns I've ever had in my life.
They haven't had opportunities like that. A lot of them, just financially or whatever.
It's a struggle. And so the fact that you can say, hey, let's jet over to Siquijor. Let's jet over to Camigan Island. Let's go back to see your folks in Bohol. That's mind-blowing to them because most people don't have that capability. And so the fact that you're able to provide that for them is life-changing. They may have not seen their family in years.
A lot of guys that struggle back home for finding what they're looking for, some of that is they can't seem to find girls that they're attracted to. Let's just say a guy back home that's a 5 and he's not attracted to a 5, and so they want to come to the Philippines or somewhere else and they're hoping to attract the 7. Can you speak on that? Is there at least truth to the fact that you're going to attract girls that you're not used to attracting?
Absolutely. I've dated some gorgeous women in Thailand and here in the Philippines, women that I would consider out of my league. Based on my experiences back home, coming here and dating a woman who's gorgeous. She's got these big brown eyes, and she's got the really nice long hair, and she wears the pretty dresses, and I'm just like, wow, like, she's out of my league. And in my conversations with them, they'll tell me I'm ugly because they're so used to seeing and being surrounded by gorgeous women that they feel like they're competing with. And to me, I'm thinking, I think you're out of my league and you think I'm out of your league. And that's not a thing back home. Back home, like, you just don't have that experience. And so here, I date these women and I'm like, man, they're gorgeous. She's so feminine and she's so beautiful, and I get a thrill out of looking at her. And then when we chat, I'm just like enamored by her beauty, just like, wow, she's gorgeous. And that's just not what I have back home. Back home, I'm like, she's got some baggage. She's got an attitude problem. Here, there's very limited attitude problems. Now, I'm going to add a caveat to this. You think you're going to date an 8 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10, and you're a 4 out of 10, you're going to be paying up for that. It's going to cost you. They know what they got. the top of the top most beautiful woman in any country, she's been getting compliments her entire life. She's had guys coming up to her telling her, "You're so beautiful," asking her out. She's getting hit up 10, 20, 30 times a day, trying to get that attention, from people trying to get that attention from her. And so you have to be cautious, be realistic, be moderate. There might be that 8 or 9 out of 10 that, one, she expects you to pay through the nose to have the privilege of dating her. But there's that 7 out of 10 that's got a great character. She's reliable. She's not going to leave you for somebody else. She is willing to commit to you. And that's what a lot of guys are looking for, that are really being more realistic. And that's what a lot of guys will find here if they are patient and they put the time in to go out and to meet with these women, to get to know them, to get to understand them.
We'll leave it at that. I think we could probably do a round 2 another day. You have a lot of good things to share. I appreciate it, especially coming from your age and perspective on things. I think that'll help a lot of guys that tune into this video that are kind of in your shoes, or your shoes from a few years ago, let's say, that are thinking about this stuff. So why don't you give a shout out to who you are a little bit more, and your channel and what you've been up to, so you guys can go over there and check out what Alex is up to.
My channel is Eastern Dreamer. That's because I'm dreaming of the Philippines. I talk about psychology, I talk about financial independence. Those are the 2 top of mind topics for me. I do get into some other things, but those are really what I focus on. I hope you get a chance to check out the channel. Let me know what you think. And yeah, thank you so much for your time today, Chad. It's been a great opportunity.
It's been awesome, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, take care.
See ya.
All right, guys, that's it for this one. I appreciate your time. Alex, thanks for your time, man. That was a great conversation. So much good information to share. Definitely check out his channel, link in the description, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye.